Ladies and gentlemen, you are now entering the Decent Christian Talk podcast. Enjoy.
Decent Christian Talk episode number 46. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm Gabe Jones. We are for the fans, by the fans. This is the DCT podcast. Thank you guys so much for joining us. A lot of you have been finding out about us via our Instagram page, via our Twitter page. Some of you have been longtime listeners. Some of you are brand new. Thank you so much for all of you that are listening. We've got a great show for you today. We got a show with Jeremy Schaeffer from Earth Groans. It's a brand new signee to Solid State Records. They are, Solid State Records is a kind of a division of Tooth and Nail, and Solid State is the label part of Tooth and Nail that is quite loud, very hard metal, and yeah, definitely Earth Groans fits that, and they are a really great up-and-coming band from South Dakota, and they had just released an EP on Solid State Records that you guys can check out. And we're going to talk to him. This is actually an interview that took place at Creation Festival this past year. You'll kind of hear some construction going on in the back. They were actually setting up the stage around us while we were talking, and so that's why it sounds kind of like a construction zone. But hey, it was fun, and I'm glad that we got to talk with him. And hey, we kind of we've had an eventful week here in the United States, and we're going to talk about that a little bit afterwards. But before we talk about all of that, we're going to head into our interview with Jeremy. So without further ado, here we go. Here is Earth Groans.
All right, hit that horn, babe. Let's dance.
Where are you from, man?
I am from Morgantown, West Virginia.
Okay, cool.
You know where that's at?
No, I don't. I'm from South Dakota. I don't know where anything is at.
Do you know where Pittsburgh is?
Yeah.
We're like
70 miles south.
Oh, okay, cool.
Yeah.
So how far of a drive was that for you today, then?
3.5 hours.
3.5?
Yeah.
Not bad at all.
No.
What's the music scene like in South Dakota?
It's not so bad. So South Dakota is really small. Sioux Falls is like the biggest city, and there's about like 125,000, I think. And when we have shows, kids come out because they're dying for it. The only problem is there isn't very many shows. There isn't very many bands. And a lot of people just skip over South Dakota because they don't know that there's a scene there. But people are all hungry for it. So if you bring it through, like, people come out, you know. So especially for the metal industry. I don't know much about like the rock or the indie scene at all, but like at least the metal scene, I feel like people are ready for it and they're hungry for it. So yeah, if bands will come through, and like every show that we played in Sioux Falls has been awesome. So yeah, it's just you gotta get people out, and we're good to go.
Right.
All right.
We back.
So you said you're from South Dakota.
Yes.
Mount Rushmore is in South Dakota.
Yep,
right?
we're on the opposite side of the state.
Okay.
So Mount Rushmore is like the west side of the state. That's like the more beautiful side of the state. So if you're gonna go to
So you're
South
like
Dakota,
the ugly, like
yeah, we're the ugly duckling out there.
okay.
Yeah, actually more the middle of the state. That's where there is absolutely nothing. I mean, if you're from a city and you need to get away from people, then I guess go there because there is literally nothing there. But the east side of the state is more of the boring, like kind of like Iowa, Kansas, like just kind of rolling plains. I tell people cows and corn because that's like all you'll see when you're driving through South Dakota. But,
What would be the Mount Rushmore of bands that influenced Earth Groans?
Okay. I'd say Under Oath is probably one of the biggest ones. Actually, to be honest, we, even though we're signed to Solid State, we have always heavily looked up to all the bands from Solid State Records. Like that, like when I started playing music like 15 years ago or however long ago that was, it was like all the Solid State artists just going down the list. It was like favorite after favorite, you know. So the fact that we got an offer from Solid State has absolutely been a dream come true for us. But yeah, so I would just say, like, going back and looking at a lot of the old Solid State bands, like, you know, Under Oath and Zao and the Agony Scene and Demon Hunter and Norma Jean, The Chariot, you know, just like all those bands are just like incredibly influential to us.
Is it cool to, like, are you getting a chance to tour with them now? Like the bands that you've looked up to for your whole life, and now you're one of them. Like someone's looking up to you right now.
Yeah, I feel like at the same, even though we're on the same label, we're still definitely like, we feel like those bands are still so much cooler than us and so much better than us. But I mean, at some point, yeah, we will start getting to tour with some of these bands, and we are beyond excited about it. We actually have a few tours in the works that I can't talk about yet, but will be really cool when it starts, and that'll help get the ball rolling with you know, Earth Groans and our popularity. So
I know that there's a verse that is like explains what Earth Groans is. Can you talk about what the band name, what that means?
Yep, absolutely. So the verse is from Romans 8, and it talks about the earth like a mother in labor, and it's referring to like natural disasters and stuff like that because of the sinful nature you know, that we live in, and the earth is actually groaning, referring to the natural disasters and everything. But then not only does it go from talk about the earth groaning, it goes on to talk about how each and every one of us within our spirit actually groans for the return of Christ and that fulfillment. So we kind of like I started with the idea of like, well, we're kind of a chaotic band, so we're going to go with like chaos on earth and stuff, so like natural disaster stuff. But then it goes on and it goes even to a double meaning that's even deeper that we really like and cling to. So, cool. Yeah.
You talked about how the fans in San Diego are like really hungry for like South Dakota.
Yep, no
Sorry.
worries.
Okay,
no worries.
So you talked about how they are hungry for that. How important is your relationship with your fans, and like what does that mean to you as now a touring member of Solid State Records? How important is that to you?
That is everything to me. I mean, we talk about this a lot actually within ourselves, is that music it's a beautiful, wonderful gift, and it's just an avenue, a vessel, if you will, for us to get to fans and to establish relationship. Like at the end of the day, like music, like I said, it's a great gift. We're very blessed to be gifted in that area, but it's all really about the relationships with our fans and the people that we come in contact with. So yeah, that's like everything to us, definitely. And if we weren't gifted in music, if we were gifted in some other, you know, area, that's what we would be using to like get to like, you know, people to establish relationships. So.
You just had an EP come out this spring called Renovate. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, so Renovate, that was, it's actually a re-release. So we came out with that album about a year ago, and then we did a re-release on Solid State Records as our first album on Solid State. Since it was still pretty new and not a whole lot of people had heard it, we really wanted to do the re-release just so we could get another push on it. But yeah, we're really excited about it. We're writing another record right now. I guess how much in depth do you want me to go on talking about Renovate? I mean, I guess yeah, it's been a great record. So the name Renovate, it comes from the song The Estate, and it's the whole analogy and a parallel of a person, a man, and an old building, and just talks about like how the old building it gets to a point where it can no longer stand if things go, you know, without being fixed, and like foundations start to crumble and shift because of the you know, surrounding environment. So if we go too long without you know paying attention to these problems, the building will crumble. And it's the same way with us. If we have these things within us that we need to deal with, old past problems or addictions or whatever, if we just bury that down deep, you know, Christ is the great carpenter. So the last line is, "O carpenter, renovate the old so what's old can become new." So it's just letting Christ come in and pull all that crap out and just kind of take over and make us into a new building, a new creation.
Cool.
So.
How can people get connected with your band?
We have a website, which is just earthgroans.com. We also have Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. Everything is pretty much just search Earth Groans, and we should be the first thing to pop up. We also have stuff on Solid State's website, on their merch store and everything. But yeah, if they want to get connected directly, we also have an email. It's just earthgroans@gmail.com.
Cool. All right, thank you for your time.
Sweet, you bet.
That was our interview with Jeremy Schaeffer from Earth Groans. I'd like to thank him for talking with us in the loud construction zone at Creation Festival. Yeah, they were actually the first band that I saw this year at Creation Fest. It was the first day of the festival. Things were kind of hectic with me, so I missed some of the early stuff. But once I finally settled in and got some of our scheduled things put away, finally got to enjoy some music. They were the first band that I got to actually see live, and they really brought it, man. I mean, they were. Jeremy's is a really good lead vocalist. He's got some awesome stage presence. He's got an awesome mustache. And so definitely check out the new EP on Solid State Records. And I'm excited to hear more from them. He alluded to a tour. They're actually out on tour right now. Kind of a southwest tour, kind of hitting Texas and California. They're on tour with By the Thousands and Terraform right now. You could check that out on their Facebook page, Earth Groans. Definitely check them out. They're definitely a band. If you're into to metal, you'll definitely really like to hear them. Hey guys, we got an event coming up this Saturday that we're going to actually be heading to. It's another festival called the Consuming Fire Festival. It's in Newark, Ohio, which is right outside Columbus. It's a little small festival. It's only a day long. It's this Saturday, August 19th. A couple bands, Sanctus Real, Viridia, Graceful Closure, Danger Scene, and Driven 11. A couple of those bands have actually been on our podcast before, Viridia and Graceful Closure. So it'll be fun to catch up with those guys. We're going to be doing some of our own live podcast live from the festival, and we're excited to partner with the festival. So head on out if you're in the area. It's a free event, so free music. Check them out. Sanctus Real. It's a chance for you to check out the new lead vocalist, Brendan and I, who have seen them live already. And Dustin is definitely he can definitely bring it. He's got some great chords for sure. Sanctus Real, they've been around a while, and I'm going to be excited to see them again after having some months under their belt with Dustin. That's going to be fun to see that. And also, Graceful Closure last year was kind of like the 2016 DCT podcast upcoming band of the year for us. And they've had a few singles under the belt since then. And a lot of their songs have kind of blown up via Spotify and as well as Christian radio. So I'm excited to see them kind of since they've kind of taken off. So that'll be fun. Once again, it's in Newark, Ohio. You can probably check that out on Facebook or just Google Consuming Fire Festival. You'll probably find some information. And once again, it is a free event, so check that out. And hey, come out and say hi to us. We love going to these festivals and hanging out, meeting new people, meeting some faces that have listened to us, and we're definitely excited to be a part of this festival and looking forward to it. As I alluded to at the beginning, this has been a definitely a crazy weekend in the United States. Specifically Charlottesville, Virginia. I don't know where all of you stand when it comes to this matter, but me specifically, and the acts that I saw transpire through the weekend were pretty disgusting. Truth be told, I mean, I had a couple family events, church events this weekend. I couldn't follow it as closely as maybe some other people did. But once I finally sat down and started to read and see what actually happened, I was horrified. Not only at what happened, which was horrifying more than anything, but definitely hearing some of the responses by people that call themselves believers, people that tried to make this a political thing, and for sure that there's definitely some political ramifications to this, and we try not to get into that too much on this show, because it is we try to have fun on this show, but when we have things like this happen, it's important to talk about it. You probably won't hear these matters discussed on a New Release Today site, because it's just not their thing to talk about that or raise anything that might be controversial and that they might lose viewers or whatever. But for me, I'm just talking from the heart here. This is a matter that is something that I've studied my entire life. In full disclosure, I'm a history major. I've studied these types of things over my life, whether it be the LA riots in '92. I lived through that. But even going back further, kind of recent history, the 1960s and just the civil rights movement, and then of course the unfortunate things that led to the American Civil War. Just the whole African American slavery and all the unfortunate things that happened around the country regarding race relations. It's just an unfortunate part of our history, and unfortunately it's not just history, it's our present. And there was a time in my life where I thought, hey, this is in the past, this is something that is gone. Maybe there might be some pockets in this country where it still exists, but it's mostly eradicated. But these last few years, man, racism has reared its ugly head. And unfortunately, I've not seen much of a response from the American church. And the response that I have seen, and not all of it for sure, but some of it has been from the context of, well, look at what so-and-so did, and comparing kind of other evil situations to this evil situation. That's not biblical. Comparing one evil to another, saying, well, this evil is not as bad as that evil, or where was so-and-so when this evil thing happened. Look, guys, evil is evil, and it's not really our job to compare evil things. Our job, especially when it comes to this, is to love people, and that's not happening. We're seeing people that call themselves Christians come out and, for lack of a better term, they're making excuses. This thing happened because they were driven to this by such and such politics and blah blah blah. I don't want to ramble on too much, but there's no excuse for this, guys. This is not what we were called to be. We were called to be set apart, and that means to be in the world, not of it. We can be in the world, we can participate in this world, but we're we are not supposed to be of this world. And that includes falling into these hateful things. Man, I sat down and I thought about the story of Lot and Abraham, and that whole story where Lot kind of pleads with God about, Sodom and Gomorrah, and he's pleading with God to save the city if God would find so many people as righteous. And I kind of felt like Lot this past weekend, because I just kind of felt helpless. Like, where are God's people at? Where are the defenders of the weak? Where are the defenders of the minorities? Where are the defenders of those that God loves? And what I saw was a lot of a lack of compassion, and that's not by everybody. There's definitely a lot of people that stood up for justice and stood up for love, and that's what gives me hope. We live in a world today where everything is at our fingertips. We can go online and we can read everybody's opinion on the matter, and that's definitely brought this issue to a stronger point in our country's history, because we didn't have this in the 1960s, where you could just log on and read about the Martin Luther King assassination. I mean, imagine if Twitter was around when that happened. Or Brown versus Board of Education, or what would Twitter have been around? What would Twitter have been like if that was around then? But man, like I said, I don't want to make this a political thing, and maybe some of you have already tuned me out already. But man, I would just encourage you to look in your heart. If you're struggling with this, man, I would just pray that you would look into the Scripture for your answers. Don't try to compare this evil to other evils, because we're called to something greater than that. That's what the world will try to do. We're called to something greater. We're called to love your neighbor as yourself. And if you find yourself, for whatever reason, looking at this side as the enemy, like in your heart you feel like this is the enemy, well, then there's a verse that says, love your enemies and pray for those that persecute you. And I will even say this, even if you are kind of in agreement with me about how terrible this thing was, loving your enemy includes those that made those terrible, terrible things happen this weekend. That means praying for them. And that, trust me, that's hard to do, because it's absolutely sickening what they did. But thankfully there's grace. Thankfully God gives grace to those. He's given grace to me in my life, and we just have to pray that one day in some way that these people will find love in their hearts. Like I said, I have hope, because there are people that do love, and guys, love is not something that is it's not a cop-out. It's not a weak thing to do. Sometimes in our society we deem love as kind of a cop-out, or kind of a just kind of a cliche thing. But the Scripture is clear that we are to love, and there's no excuse not to do that. If Jesus has instructed us to love, his top 2 commandments were love God and love people. And man, I just really hope that you guys are a part of the love. Hey, and you know what? If you want to talk about this with somebody, I would encourage you to talk with your pastor, talk with some friends. This is a conversation that deserves to be had. History is going to judge us by how we respond to this. And I just pray and hope that it is something that we can rebound from, and something that we can hopefully teach our kids not to do. Because for whatever reason, these kids were not taught that. And I just hope that once again that love wins, and that the people that find this hate in their heart, that they would somehow, their hearts would be softened in some way. Anyway, I know I rambled on for a while there, but I felt that was something that was important. This is a podcast that I want to talk about these issues. Hey guys, once again, check us out at the Consuming Fire Festival this weekend. We'd love to have you, see you there. We're at decentchristiantalk.com. You can subscribe to us on there. You can also donate to us on there. Hey, you know what? If you could give us a dollar or two, you can go to the right-hand side of the page and check us out on there. That will help us cover some of our costs. You could also go to patreon.com/decentchristiantalk. That's Patreon, patreon.com/decentchristiantalk. That would be another way that you could give to us. We're on Twitter, DC Talk Act 2, Instagram, DC Talk Podcast, Snapchat, DCT Podcast. We might be posting stuff on there throughout the weekend, especially on Saturday while we're at the festival. And yeah, check us out on Facebook, Decent Christian Talk, and Decent Christian Talk Podcast discussion page. We're also on iTunes. We're on YouTube. For now, we're on SoundCloud. I still have no idea what the heck's going on with SoundCloud. But thank you so much Thank you guys for listening so much. I'd like to thank Jeremy from Earth Groans for talking with us. I'd also like to thank Brennan Gallagher, Carly Jones, Judah Jones, Josiah Jones, Nathaniel Jones, and once again, all of you for listening. Thank you so much. We'll catch you next time. Peace.
Don't forget to tip your waiters and waitresses. Thanks.